Scared for real.
Hey, it's Chris O'Neill.
Adam Perry.
Brand new supernatural horror film. Seems like we're saying that more and more these days, aren't we, Adam?
Yeah.
Brand new supernatural horror film. This time it's Ishana Night Shyamalan. Yeah, her dad is M. Night Shyamalan. There was a book called The Watchers by A.M. Shine, and the movie takes the same name and calls it The Watchers. It takes place in the United Kingdom, Ireland area, and I love how you get a nice tour of the Irish, atmosphere, the environment up there. Some great shots, for sure. Now, she wrote it as well, and her dad produced it, and he also was a second unit director on it.
So a lot of influence from Mr. Shyamalan.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're sitting there watching this movie, you'll definitely see, oh, this is like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Well, because it kind of is.
Right.
So just FYI, spoiler alert, we're going to be discussing this film from start to finish. And Adam was unfortunately not able to see The Watcher, so we're going to spoil this movie. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, you can spoil this movie. Spoil away.
Yeah, because Adam and I both are under... We actually agree on this. We don't agree on a lot of movie opinions, but this one we agree upon. M. Night Shyamalan hasn't made a halfway decent movie in 21 years.
Yeah.
Actually 22, because I think Signs came out in 2002. But yeah, Signs was the last halfway decent movie, in my opinion, made by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I was saying this off air with you, I really enjoyed Sixth Sense.
Oh yeah, that's the movie that got him.
Yeah, and
his big break. He got Oscar nominations and stuff. And
sure. It's a classic, or now it's a classic. But yeah, his movies really just started becoming predictable, and the same thing over and over again, just kind of in a different area or different, like Signs and The Village could basically the same.
Well, I enjoyed Signs more, but The Village was, again, M. Night Shyamalan loves Steven Spielberg. You can sense that in a lot of his movies, and you can tell he watched Alfred Hitchcock movies, but he didn't really pay attention to them,
right?
Because there's always a payoff in a Hitchcock movie, even in lesser Hitchcock movies, which are good movies for most filmmakers. A lesser Hitchcock, there's still plenty of rewards.
Right.
And the payoff, in my opinion, from all of his movies after Signs, they were not great.
No.
He's got a movie coming out this year with Josh Hartnett as a potential killer, psychopath. That'd be interesting to see Josh Hartnett, we haven't seen him in a while. Well, he kind of came back into the limelight a little bit with Oppenheimer, because he had a prominent role playing a friend of Oppenheimer's in there. So, it was like, whoa, I haven't seen Josh Hartnett in a while on the big screen. So maybe we'll see a good M. Night Shyamalan movie again. Knock on the Cabin certainly wasn't great. No. It was very, again, interesting premise. That was the thing, and that's the thing we're going to discuss with The Watchers. Interesting premise, underwhelming, not so satisfying conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start off with The Watchers. You've got great lead performance here from Dakota Fanning, who's just she's always been interesting in every single one of her movies. Even in the abysmal Hide and Seek with Robert De Niro, she was really, to match Denzel Washington in Man on Fire.
Yeah.
As a kid, that she was really good in that. And she not only was a decent child actor, she grew even unfortunately in one of the Twilight terrible movies. But she's always interesting to watch. Her and her sister are both very interesting actors. So you have Dakota Fanning. She plays Mina. She's an American girl, cue Tom Petty, an American girl living in Ireland. She works at a pet shop, and she's dealing with post-traumatic stress. Now, this is, again, post-traumatic stress is not something that there's a lot of movies that delve into. Certainly Scorsese delves into it some. Hitchcock definitely delved into it, especially with Marnie.
Right.
And it was one of his lesser movies, apparently. It's very difficult subject matter to put into a movie. Kubrick teased it a little bit with Full Metal Jacket and everything like that. But I think Coppola probably did the best post-traumatic stress with Apocalypse Now, Colonel Kurtz, how it just totally drove him insane.
Right.
Dealing with all of the crap of war.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of post-traumatic stress that's kind of danced about in movies. Mm-hmm. And I think Ishana would have had a more successful movie. I mean, you can't deviate too much from a novel, but you can make the novel into your own. I mean, Kubrick and Hitchcock are like the best examples of that.
Famous for that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they totally take a book they kind of base a certain premise on, a little bit of the plot, and in some cases the whole plot, but they make it into their own movie. And it ticked off Stephen King, what he did with The Shining. And I don't know I don't even know if the Bird's author was alive. Mm-hmm. When Hitchcock did that, he might have been, but it was completely different. And actually, the name only, I think, is pretty much all that remained from the novel. But my point is, here's an opportunity you could have made to at least delve into the post-traumatic stress, because Mina, played by Dakota Fanning, 15 years after her mom gets killed in this horrific car crash that she was kind of responsible for. Mm-hmm. In a flashback scene later on in the film, you see that she distracts her mom, and it causes her to go head on into another vehicle. It totally kills her. Her sister gets scarred and injured, her twin sister. So yeah, Dakota Fanning, spoiler alert, she plays the twin sister at the end. So she's still struggling 15 years later. She's an artist. They don't really come out and say, I'm an artist. She doesn't come out and say, I'm an artist, but she's constantly, doodling, drawing throughout the entire movie here and there. She's struggling over the death of her mom, and she hasn't really talked to her sister, because you kind of get the fact that her sister's trying to reach out to her and leaving her voice messages, because she's an aunt.
Right.
She just wants them to connect again, and she's just totally ignored the texts, the calls. So this pet shop, she's tasked to deliver a valuable bird, whom she names Darwin later on, driving into a vast forest. Her car breaks, stranding her in the middle of the forest. Now, there's a whole sequence before you even get to meet Mina, like a prologue, if you will.
Right.
A guy running through that same forest, and he gets swept away by some sort of creature.
Oh.
And he's trying to climb a tree, and it doesn't help. You see birds going in a different direction, and it's like, oh, this is definitely something creepy, something weird, and it cuts right to Mina. So there's this whole mysterious vast forest, and she happens to be driving nearby. The road leads to there. She's got a GPS. Her vehicle starts acting kind of wonky, and it shuts down all electricity, basically. So she's stranded, and of course she's exploring the forest, and then all of a sudden her car is out of sight, and she tries to go back, and she can't find her car. So it's almost like she's trapped in this forest.
Blair Witch Project. Can't get, keep going in circles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I don't know. I'm trying to think, would I enjoy the Blair Witch more than this movie?
I hated the Blair Witch.
Yeah. I couldn't get into the Blair Witch myself. At least I sat through this. I probably would have sat through Blair Witch in the theaters, but maybe I'd rate them about the same. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but so she encounters this mysterious old woman watching her, and after hearing all these creature sounds, they're creature sounds, they're not human voices, okay?
Yeah.
She follows the old woman, whom is named Madeline. It's like a bunker-like building, okay? So upon entering the bunker, which is nicknamed the Coop, she meets two other occupants. You got Sierra and Daniel. Now, Madeline explains that a mysterious group called the Watchers, the title. The title is the Watchers. They observe the group through a mirrored glass in the coop every night. It's like they're entertained, and it's like, are they entertained or are they doing something more?
Right.
So the next day, Mina just wants to get the heck out of there, but she finds that there's no way out of the forest, and they have to be back in the coop by nightfall. So Madeline explains the rules, and she tells Mina the Watchers will kill anyone outside the coop at night. They are afraid of light, and they must never enter the burrows, which is like a set of tunnels that kind of surround the forest. The Watchers stay in during the day. So Mina she's kind of like, okay, I have to stay here. So she starts bonding with Sierra and Daniel, learning that they have been stranded in the forest for several months, and they have never seen a Watcher. Now, Sierra mentions her husband, John, left the coop days ago to get help, but has not returned. And, of course, Mina is kind of a rebel, hence why, unfortunately, her mom died. She has a difficult time following instructions because she's her own woman, very independent. Mina clashes with Madeline. Madeline follows all of these rules. She seems to be fine obeying the Watchers, but Mina and Daniel explore a burrow, retrieve several items, including an old bike, also a camcorder, before fleeing after Mina glimpses a Watcher burn itself in the sunlight. And it doesn't really show all of the Watcher, I might add.
Yeah.
The group decided to use the camera to capture footage of a Watcher to prove they are real. Sierra's husband, John, seemingly appears at the coop, but Madeline refuses to let him in, claiming he's a Watcher. So John fails to verify himself to Sierra because Madeline's like, okay, ask him a question only you know or he knows the answer to. Obviously, he can't answer the question. He fails to verify himself. So the Watchers break apart part of the mirrored glass, spooking the group. Madeline returns the items to the burrow because it's like, okay, these guys are for real.
Right.
So months pass, winter falls. The group struggles to cope with the worsening conditions and begin to turn on each other. After an argument, Daniel locks Mina and Madeline out of the coop at night, forcing them to seek shelter in the forest. So now, unfortunately, this is a problem M. Night Shyamalan had in Signs. Mm-hmm. You get to see what the Watchers look like. And I don't know about you, Adam, but what you don't see is, to me, more startling and more entertaining.
Sure. I'll agree with that.
Maybe show a hand or something like that, but they reveal the whole physique of
Let
the
your
Watchers.
imagination run wild a little bit.
Right. They witness the Watchers, both Madeline and Mina. They're humanoid creatures that imitate the coop occupants. They react angrily to Madeline and Mina's absence. So the pair, Mina eventually, persuades Daniel to let them both in. So Madeline then explains that the Watchers are a race of ancient beings called changelings or fairies and are attempting to learn how to imitate humans. The Watchers, furious with Mina's repeated breaking of the rules, attempt to get into the coop. But lo and behold, they discover a hidden door.
There's always a hidden door, isn't there?
And this is where it starts getting a little cliche here. So the hidden door leads beneath the coop, and they seek refuge. And below is another bunker filled with supplies, a computer. And on the computer, they discover there's videos of a professor. Now, they mentioned throughout the movie, Daniel and Sierra talk about this mysterious professor character. Mm-hmm. He's never revealed, really. So they found these videos, and he kind of observes the same thing, that the Watchers wanted to study, but soon found they were better imitating than he expected. He actually managed to capture one and started to bond with it, though.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think there's more to the movie, and
let's take a monster as a pet.
And I will soon over-explain just like the movie does. So yeah, he managed to capture a Watcher, and he bonds with it. In his last video diary, the professor explains a way to escape the forest before requesting that his university notes be destroyed, and is last seen climbing back to the coop to kill the Watcher and then himself. So the next day, the group leave the underground bunker to discover that the coop has been ransacked. So with no other choice, the group follow the professor's advice to escape, reaching a river in a boat, just like he said. And of course, Darwin, the bird that she's supposed to deliver to whatever pet shop, well, she obviously didn't make it there.
No.
So the bird kind of leads them out of there. So like, follow the birds. That's what the professor said in the video.
Right.
They reach the boat with Darwin's help as night falls. Daniel encounters a watcher mimicking John and is tricked into helping him. The others escape as the watchers kill Daniel. Mina, Madeline, and Sierra manage to reach civilization and escape the forest. The movie keeps going after this, when it probably should have wrapped up at some point in that area. So days later, Mina heads to the professor's university to destroy the notes, and she learns that the Watchers once lived in peace with humanity, but a war broke out and they were forced underground and sealed in. And she also learns about half-human, half-Watcher hybrids. Talk about a movie getting really carried away
into
here.
The weeds.
And they're able to explore the world during the day. So Mina visits Sierra at her home, shows her a set of photos she found in the office, revealing that Madeline was the professor's wife who died before entering the forest. And then she realizes that Madeline is the Watcher that the professor managed to capture in the bunker. Because it's like you could get the Watcher to like take on a dead person or someone else. What's the word? Chameleon-like.
You're right.
So the real Sierra arrives at the house as the fake Sierra that Mina was talking to reveals herself to be none other than Madeline. So Madeline cycles through forms of Sierra, Madeline, John, and Daniel before knocking Sierra unconscious, attacking Mina. And then Madeline reveals that she had always wanted to escape the forest and plans to imitate Mina. So Mina realizes that Madeline is half-human, half-Watcher hybrid, manages to talk Madeline into calming down.
Calm down.
Yeah, encouraging her to let go of her grief and her anger towards humans. Madeline transforms herself into her true Watcher form and departs. Sometime later, though, Mina has reconciled with her sister, has gotten over her own grief. Meanwhile, Madeline, imitating the form of a child, keeps watch over Mina. That's how the movie ends.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the last 10, 15 minutes of the movie that just didn't need to over-explain it, you know?
Yeah.
Again, Kubrick, Hitchcock, they all trusted their audience to figure things out. Right. And even if it was a different interpretation of what they laid out, hey, you know, come up with your own conclusions here. You know, you don't need everything spelled out, but it seems like, you know, Christopher Nolan, he's a master of overdoing it, over-explaining. And it seems like, you know, M. Night Shyamalan definitely reveals too much. Again, I would have enjoyed it better, Adam, if we didn't see the Watchers. And there are differences of the book from what I'm reading here. The Watchers does stay fairly loyal to Shine's book, but one of the biggest changes is, of course, in the ending. Now, in the book, Madeline is still revealed as a Watcher, though in the book she warns Mina of the power of the Watchers. Crucially, Shine doesn't describe what the Watchers look like either.
Oh, so
that's another big...
So it is left to the imagination.
Yeah. Like a good book.
Yeah.
you know, come up with your own, you know, and so Shyamalan, I think this, I think this has to do more with M. Night than his daughter Ashana, but just revealing the look of the Watchers it just takes away a lot of the mysteriousness of the film, you know, and of the book.
You know, and on top of, you know, I've said multiple times, and you agree with me. What we make up in our heads is 10 times more scary than anything that could ever be shown to us. So, I mean, it's such a lost art form in modern cinema. It's almost sad. It takes so much away. Right.
Apparently, they're rumored to be about a $30 million budget with this. And it's like, Roger Corman would have had fun with $1 million budget and wouldn't have shown anything. Yeah, he would have just created an atmosphere.
And you know, and we were saying this before we hit record on this show, is $30 million budget, and in a half a year, it's going to be forgotten.
Right.
You know, we just did an hour-long show on 3 Friday the 13th movies that were made for $1 million, $2 million, and they're going to be remembered until the end of time.
Right.
And it's insane. There's so many movies like that now.
Look at the budget Spielberg had with Jaws. It wasn't a huge budget.
No.
He only could show the shark at certain parts of the movie.
Fine. So half the time it didn't work.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what made the movie so great. And even Spielberg is like, I want to go back and make a movie where I want to pretend like I don't have a lot of money to play with.
Right.
Because, I mean, that is arguably one of Steven Spielberg's finest films. It was his first masterpiece.
Another movie that we're going to talk about later in the year because it's got a major anniversary. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah, even less.
Everybody claims that to be the goriest movie ever made, and there's not a stitch of blood in it.
No.
It's same thing with Halloween. It's what you didn't see and what you played in your head.
Right, and look,
scared you.
We talked about Psycho and Peeping Tom.
Yeah,
I mean the subject matter for Peeping Tom is so scary and uncomfortable, and again, you see a very little bit of blood at the end.
Yes,
when he kills himself.
Right.
Other than that, you don't see anything.
Right.
You see the reactions.
Yeah.
And that's more terrifying what you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. The book didn't even describe what the Watchers look like, you know? I guess Shyamalan gives the audience a visual shot, leaves from the back. Their faces may change, but the horror movie paints a picture of their original state before transforming. Mina and Madeline, they're both good at mimicking and hiding things from others. Mina pretends to be something she's not at the start of the movie, you know? I mean, she's working at a pet store, but she's really an artist.
Right.
She's not comfortable with herself mainly because of the trauma that she's going through. And again, I wish Shyamalan focused more on the trauma rather than, giving a whole... And I was dreading the fact that, and I kept saying he because I know Ishana, it was her movie. She apparently wrote and directed it, but when your dad's the producer and second unit director, how much of it did she actually direct?
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So it's like, as much as
you hope you let her, kind of take the reins. And,
I mean, we weren't there on the set. We don't know. Maybe he did give her free rein, but it's like, well, he's producing the movie, so
right.
That's what kind of ruined Signs. I mean, Signs was a great movie, and the thing that ruined it is you get to see the aliens.
Sure.
I mean, it was still overall a good movie, but from there, he just had a tendency of just over-explaining and over-showing things and taking the magic out of the story.
Yeah, and we mentioned Blair Witch Project earlier. I think the only thing that movie did well was not show the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
It was still left to the imagination of what was happening to these kids. So, man, it's...
the whole meaning I think this film warns us about is that people aren't always who they say they are. And I get that. Again, I think, overcoming post-traumatic stress, I think that would have been a much more powerful film if they decided to take that angle on it.
Right.
Again, I don't know how they could have done it, but I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not a screenwriter. I just know that it would have been more interesting to just focus more on the post-traumatic stress because this really bothered me. Now, this was holding her back from, being her true self. She just wasn't comfortable being herself because she thought, oh my God, I killed my mom. She kind of just gave up, and being in this coop for months wakened her up, and the Watchers and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how you could play that if you rewrote it, but certainly not showing what they look like.
Right. Now, Chris, you mentioned before we hit the record button that there's a sequel to the book.
Oh, yes.
Coming out.
Yeah. I read when I was delving into this, I mean, the movie kind of leaves itself open for a sequel.
Right.
Most of these supernatural horror films do.
Right.
So if they do well, if the movie makes more than $30 million, which I don't know if it's going to.
That was going to be my follow-up. Do you think this movie is going to catch on and make enough to warrant a sequel?
They're guessing that this movie may make $8 or $10 million in its first weekend, so I don't know. Maybe it will break even.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, it's such a underwhelming, unsatisfying movie. It really is.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's just, like you said, forgettable. I mean, an ending, the watcher who's now in a childlike form is watching. They're watchers, yes.
Right.
It's just, I don't know, it didn't excite me, I can tell you that. I mean, again, I love the atmosphere.
Right.
And you get some amazing shots of Ireland and the forest, and it just made for good atmosphere.
One thing M. Night Shyamalan and obviously his daughter now have always been good at is giving us atmosphere.
Yeah.
And you know, putting us into the story and visually making it look good. It's his problem is, you know, since I think, you know, Sixth Sense is execution.
Yeah.
And, you know, his execution is just off when it comes to these big twists and reveals and, you know,
and the twists aren't satisfying in most cases.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the book. A.M. Shine is the one who wrote it. The Watchers. A second book, Stay in the Light, is on the way. Apparently, it's expected to be published in October of this year.
Huh.
Just in time for Halloween. But Stay in the Light is going to focus on Mina following her escape from the Watcher's forest. And according to the summary, Mina will attempt to stop the Watcher's power from growing even as people she knows starts to disappear.
Interesting.
And with the Watcher's sequel novel, Ishana Shyamalan will have plenty of content for another film. But, you know, there seems to be so much of her dad in this movie.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see her own vision, her own voice as a writer and producer, director. It would have been. It just seems like there's so much of her dad in this movie. I mean, she has her father's name. I'm not saying change her name, but let's see how she does without her dad.
Yeah.
In her business, you know, just see how she does.
Maybe they're on the same wavelength and it's the same thing.
Maybe she does, but I would like to see her do a movie without any M. Night Shyamalan name in the film.
Sure.
You know, I think there's too much of her dad in this movie. It feels obvious at times.
Yeah.
It would just be nice to see what her vision is without her dad. You know, and it's hard because you take away her dad, and would she have a $30 million budget? Probably not. No major studio would probably touch it. But again, it'd be nice to see what she has to offer as a filmmaker without her dad's influence. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Because it's just this movie, yes, Ishana Shyamalan is listed as writer and director, but her dad is the producer and a second unit director. So he's got his fingers all over it.
Yeah, and there's so many millions of examples of producers telling the writers and directors, hey, I'm financing this thing, put this in there.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm not suggesting that was the case on this movie or even came close to happening, but it is a common thing in the business, perfect example that just randomly off the top of my head, Scream.
Yeah.
The Weinsteins, constantly demanding certain things put in the movie that Wes Craven didn't want or didn't write, and I mean it's just the nature of the beast. They just do that,
right? Well, and I mean that was the thing. Scream was more of an interesting satire than a horror movie.
But that's not.
Yeah, I know.
The point is the producer's influence on a movie.
I know, and it is frustrating that you don't have someone like Roger Corman now. I think I've said this several times. Blum is the only guy that is kind of like Roger Corman now.
Right.
The filmmakers have some freedom, some control. I mean, it's still Jason Blum's movie technically, but they're allowed to play around. And that was the thing. Roger Corman, this is my movie. I want you to direct it. And if you do well, you can do your own thing afterwards.
Right.
And I just wish there was that kind of
more freedom like that.
More freedom.
Yeah.
And Hollywood is just like literally cannibalizing itself now by announcing home video releases of their movies before they even open.
Right.
Yeah, some of these critics have seen them at the Cannes Film Festival or Sundance Film Festival, like In a Violent Nature. Most people don't get to see these movies until their opening date in the theater. And when you tease a Blu-ray release or a streaming date, either as the film is opening or before the film opens, it takes away the excitement of going to a theater.
Right.
I mean, Bad Boys is opened up the same time as The Watchers, and they were already, a limited edition steelbook of Bad Boys is coming out. And it's like, you're killing yourself. You're cannibalizing yourself. That's just it's just. I mean, there doesn't seem to be an excitement to go to the movie theaters anymore, and the box office receipts are showing that.
Right.
I mean, you had the rare Barbenheimer last summer, which was a huge phenomenon. Between the two movies, they made almost $2 billion.
Right.
That's great. We're not getting that this year because, I mean, they still announce release dates. They've been doing that for a long time, but they need to stop doing that, I think, because there's so many options to watch movies now.
Right.
So, and the ticket prices are outrageous. And
yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's that's the business of, that's why it's not called the movie for us or the movie fun. It's the movie business. I mean,
right. There will always be that. Yeah. And most people know that there's going to be a streaming date or a physical media release, right. But it's okay to not talk about it for 6 months and let the movie breathe.
Sure, but
they don't want to do that.
Listen, I'm the just as much of an advocate for movie theaters and movie going as you are. But if I'm going to play a devil's advocate here, I'm the head of Warner Brothers. All right. Or let's say Universal. So I'm the head of Universal. I can put a movie out, for a couple weeks in the movie theater. A profit that I'm gonna have to share with movie theater chains and stuff and whatever. Or I can put it on Peacock and take everything else for myself because that's my own streaming platform.
Yeah, but
I mean.
But the thing is, though, the CEO will make a ton of money, but no one else will.
And I mean, the business of the business of the business.
Yeah. But previously, everyone else made money too.
Right.
And it's okay.
But again, it's corporate greed. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, it will always be there. What I'm saying though is, if they change the model, I think they will make even more money in the long run.
In the long run, but this is.
I know
everybody wants it right now, yeah. Right? They want that. It's like doing drugs. They want that instant satisfaction. They want that instant hit. So
and movies are not even referred to as movies or film anymore. It's just content now,
right?
And that's another problem too. Yeah.
So I mean, again, I'm
now we're going off.
I'm a huge advocate for still going to the movies and the cinema system. But again, I do see the appeal, from these people who are running these major studio companies, who are like, what, we've invested millions of dollars into this streaming service. Let's throw it out there, and take all the profit, Why and cut out the middleman of AMC, Regal, or whatever else is out there.
But they still have to pay the streamers, too.
Yeah, but they're not paying the streamers nearly as much as they're paying the movie theater.
But again, movie theaters have to pay them too for at least 2 weeks.
Right.
So the movie theaters are paying money to these studios for 2 weeks at least. So again, they have a potential to make more money if they stop teasing other releases.
How do you figure the movie theater is,
Well, the movie theaters. Okay, I heard this from different managers in the past. They might have changed the business model. Right. That's always the thing, but especially the smaller theaters.
Right.
They have to pay to have that movie play at their theater for at least 2 weeks. And I think that goes for the chains as well. They have to pay for it. That's what my understanding was. At least it was several years ago.
My understanding was that, Paramount makes a deal with Regal. I want to, put this movie in 200 movie theaters, and then it's up to Regal to distribute that movie.
But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Regal, since we're naming, they have to pay that studio to have it at least, I think, 2 weeks, So that's why they charge a gargantuan amount of money on concessions, because that's how they make their money. They do not make as much money off of showing the movie. I think after it's played for 2 weeks, they start earning some money for themselves. But from what I understand, again, I could be wrong, they have to pay the studios to have that movie in their theaters.
I don't know. Hey, if anyone listening out there, if you work for a movie theater or have managed a movie theater and you kind of have an idea of how the inner workings, I'd love to kind of crack this puzzle to see how it works nowadays.
Right. Well, but my whole thing, though, Adam, is yes, the CEOs will always be greedy. I understand that. But the problem is the CEOs and the studios are complaining that they're losing money when a film doesn't gross that amount of money back at a movie theater. And the reason why is there's no excitement to go to the movie theaters because they're promoting their streaming, they're promoting their physical release. They don't make a ton of money off of physical releases anymore. That's gone way down. Yes, 4Ks are selling better. And so, I mean, DVDs are always the cash cow for physical media, but they're not like they were in the early 2000s. Let's just saying that. But the streamers, you promote that. Again, I can watch this at home. I don't have to spend $50 to go out to a movie. So what's the urgency to get to a movie theater? And that's why these movies are struggling to perform, and the studios complain about it. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I mean,
the CEOs, some of them are just like, we're losing money on this movie. Well, duh, because you're promoting your other platforms before they're even released.
Right.
Just go to the theater.
Right.
And you'll make even more money for yourself.
Yeah. Or, stop thinking every movie has to be a Marvel blockbuster and stop giving budgets of $500 million.
Right.
And, give them a budget of, maybe $1 million, $2 million and say, go make me a horror movie. Go make me this. Go make me a that.
Well, the guy who wrote American Fiction, won the best screenplay Oscar, he said it would be so great if we could get back to making maybe 10, $20 million movies, 5, $50 million movies, and maybe have one big blockbuster.
Right.
Because these other movies are struggling because you have to have 4 screens for one big blockbuster that it's already been like the excitement's already been taken out because, it's going to be streaming. So you got 4 screens filled with a blockbuster, and there's hardly any room for these other smaller movies. That's what the guy said. Make more room.
I mean, again, it's,
there's a lot of Hollywood is kind of like cannibalizing itself right now at this point.
I mean, if a CEO is going to complain about not making its money back, my first thing is like, well, don't give it a $500 million budget.
Right.
That's your first problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Coppola made his dream movie, but it was all his own money.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner is making his 4-part Western epic, most of it his own money.
Right.
He sold a home. Costner just said he's got his home ready to sell so he can make this movie. I have to make it.
Right.
And no studio's going to give him $400 million to make a movie. No. So he's already sunk $120 million of his own money into these movies.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's just funny to me that the movies with a very limited budget will outlast this movie that had a $30 million.
Right.
Can you imagine what Hellraiser would have been with a $30 million budget?
We saw what the streaming movie did on the streamers.
The streaming movie wasn't bad, I didn't think.
Well, I heard a lot of bad things about it. But anyway. That's one thing Clive Barker mentions often. He wishes he could do Hellraiser with a budget. Yeah.
Hellraiser had a very small budget. I don't know exactly what it was.
The first 2 were great.
And again, the one that's always talked about, Halloween, $300,000.
Yeah. But anyways, getting back to the Watchers, it's just, I honestly think M. Night Shyamalan needs to just do what George Lucas did. I mean, Lucas directed very few movies in his career.
Mm-hmm.
come up with the story or the concepts and let a brilliant filmmaker take over. Because, I mean, he showed excellent potential with The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and to a certain degree Signs, but his movies are just, in my opinion, have not been that good.
Yeah.
For the most part. So it's like M. Night Shyamalan movie. It's like, ooh, cool premise. You want to like it, but it's just the way it's presented is just let someone else take the reins as a director.
And you know, hopefully, like you said, his daughter gets her moment without his.
I'm curious. You know, I'm curious if she has the same kind of thought as her dad. Oh, maybe I should just be a producer instead and let someone else direct these movies. Nothing wrong with that. Oh. I mean, Lucas. I mean, look at the amazing work Spielberg did with Lucas.
Right. So well, again, you know, her first movie.
Yeah,
hopefully we see a lot more from her and see what she's got.
Yeah, we'll see how successful this one. Again, I kind of see this movie breaking even.
Yeah,
I don't see it making a huge amount.
What's it rated?
PG-13. Which
okay,
is,
so I mean,
I was going to mention that the kills are very. They're, again, you don't see the kills, which I think are good. You don't need to see that.
So it's going to make its budget there because all the teenagers who want to go see a scary movie.
Yeah, it's a date. It's a good date movie.
Yeah, they're going to go.
It's kind of forgettable though. A great concept though. I can't say it enough. It's a great concept. This whole thing, you know, is a great concept. I just wish it was executed better. That's all. So what do you think? Have you seen The Watchers, the new Shyamalan movie? I want to say M. Night Shyamalan because he had so much to do with it, but it's Ishana Night Shyamalan. So have you seen her new movie yet? Comment below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Again, if you totally disagree with us, and I know we went on quite of a rant about the show business itself, but it's a main reason why a lot of these movies are suffering right now, in my opinion, but just text us below, follow us on Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now, and Instagram. And we're at Scared for Reals. Those are our handles on those platforms. Anything else, Adam?
No. So tune in next time.
Yeah, subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
We'll see you next time on Scared for Real.